You need a chair over here, you know it.
Oh,
Why don't you just go get that one? You can't see what's going on otherwise. So when I went to the county seat and looked at these things, they first drug out this thing which was documents bound into something about this high. You know, big things at the end that it's extremely difficult to use.
right.
But District 39, every school had a name, or at least some did. This was Clover Nook School. And these are my notes that I'd made some time ago. But this is something that, this is 1877, I guess it is. One of the, I think the district director and the school board had a director, treasurer, and a moderator.
Okay.
I don't know what the duties were, but that was it.
Okay.
And so I mean, I recognize names. I know there's August Rathy. He has one child, so it's the name of the parents and the name of the children. This is a school census. You'll see how many children of school age are in that district. Now, 1877 would be about 10 years after Nebraska became a state. And then here's Henry Diedrichs, Minnie, Henry, and Friedrich. So
So that is your
that's my great grandfather.
great grandfather.
Henry is my grandfather, right there.
Okay.
Minnie, that's Wilhelmina, and Friedrich is another sister. She's 7. And then these are other gay dialers. Is the it doesn't show any children there, so I don't know why not. Well, maybe. I guess I don't know. Okay, so Henry is 9 there. This must be the next, maybe this is the next census that shows Henry. Now 10. And Minnie, Henry, Friedrich, and now Fred. Fred is Henry's younger brother.
Oh, okay.
So those pages don't look too bad. But this is April 1881, it says. But this would be the kind of thing that, if it could be done, I would like to see them take these books and copy them onto, well, digitally, carefully, and then they would have, then it would be saved.
So then people can find this online.
Yeah, they could. And as I was telling you last night, I don't know if I would make them available directly online other than make them log into the university or something else. I don't want people to just copy the whole thing and then start their own website. Well, I'm pretty much copying the tops of these. This was difficult. I worked at this for a while and I finally gave up. And this is towards the bottom of the page. Let me see. I think some of these must be duplicates. No, that's District 39, and this is a picture of District 39, 1907. There's a person that had that and gave it to me.
Okay. And this is.
Well, District 39 is where my dad went to school, and that's the district where we just looked at the records here. This is Johnson County, Nebraska, and No, it's upside down, no wonder it doesn't look right. So here is District 39 right here.
Okay.
Now, I told you last night there were 4 sections. That is, this one's got 6 for some reason. Probably because, well, I'm not sure, but right there is a parochial school. It may have been then too, I'm not sure. But there's, I mean, look at that weird thing, you know, why are they that way? And this little tiny district up here.
And some of these down
Yeah,
here.
so it could be that there are railroad or a creek or something else that is a real barrier. Maybe that's the reason, I don't know. But that's the thing. This is, I might keep this up for discussion later, these two, but this is my home district. I lived on a farm right here. Here's the village of Sterling. It's real short to go to school right there. But I'm in this district, so I went down here and over there. Across the railroad that went through here, and across a creek that went close to it. So,
And that's, you said you went to this school for
first and second
first and
grade.
second grade, and then you went here.
Third, fourth, and fifth. And now I started out in first grade here. My sister, when she started out, she started in kindergarten because we were going to this school now. Then we went back to this school. And there was a period when I was in 6th grade that my folks, my sister had a problem. She was physically handicapped, and they felt this teacher was not treating her right. So in the spring, we quit this school and went over here to this one.
Oh,
So it was,
you jumped around a lot.
there was no road through here. There was a path though, so we'd ride a pony down here and ride it across there. This was kind of pleasant. I mean, there's a lot of woods there, and we'd ride through that and go to school.
This seems farther away though.
Yeah, let's see. This is definitely 2 miles and let's say 2 1/8 miles. This would be, let's say 7/8, another. So this is actually probably slightly closer,
Oh, wow.
not much. Now back to those other records. These are some more of the records that this is the annual report of the director. You can see in 1877, and this is the director. The name is, well, this is for District 12, I think. No, District 6 it says. Yes, it's. Why did I pick 6? I don't know. Well, this is Vesta. Okay. But this is a summary. There were 28 males and 26 females of school age. And these are some more copies probably of the same thing. As we had looked at a while ago. So and these, there's the school census. It also lists some things about the school conditions.
Oh.
So in April 17, 1876, it's talking about the school here. This is the census again. And besides the pupils, it says there are about 3 square yards of blackboard. The house is furnished with poor desks. It is, or will be ventilated on all sides or something, I don't know. Districts in debt, they are trying to pay these, and ones. Or just tell them what their conditions are. This one I think I tried to get a little better picture of because the school is in not very good condition. There is no privies. I don't know how they got along. Following map charts.
After?
I can't, after
After?
outline or something. Oh, a few outline maps
Oh,
is all. And then district owns the following, whatever it is under there, not any.
Oh, the district doesn't.
Now this one, the school's in good condition, and there are 2 privies, which would be standard, and you know, can't read it. It's not worth the effort right now. I'm going to see what that stuff and this we looked at.
Do you mind if I take pictures of these too?
I'm just going to give them to you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
Copies, and so I can.
Now, where is your grandfather?
Without doing a little research, I've forgotten what the interest is. I'm thinking that this might be one of my great uncles, but I'm not sure. 1907, my dad would have been 3 years old, so it would have, if there's anybody there, it would have to be one of his older brothers. But I am not sure if we have a relative there.
Okay.
It's just a pretty good picture of a school. I mean, they definitely dressed up for this picture.
Yeah. Say.
Yeah. So these we'll keep aside for now.
Oh, this one smiled. Sort of.
Okay. Now I kind of numbered these, but so I've started off again. I think some of these are duplicates of what we saw before. But this is the type of record now that at the beginning of the school, term ending May 1914, and this is the children. There's Otto Diedrichs is my dad. He said he went to 5th grade. He told me he only went through the 4th grade. Maybe he went 4 years of school. And then it's got other names there.
He didn't do too bad, did he? His marks weren't that bad.
No. Let's see. Teacher Ora Ostrander, probably the mother of this one. And this is the back side. There's this side of the card and there's this side of the card. Teachers report to successors and the next teacher. This is what happened last year, which is not much information. That's the number of pupils between 5 and 21 who were attending. 7 males, 1 female, a total of 8. We're under 5 and so on. And so she signs it and the director signs it. This is term ending 1916. Let's see what this will say. Number of months taught is 9, which is not always 9. Now Alan, here we'll see this is school started January 26th and ended April 16th. This is a short year. My Uncle Alan attended 3 days. But my dad was there again, and his younger brother was there. This is 1915, term ending April. I don't see when the term started. Teacher salary was $50 per month. And this is District 12, which is my mother's. This is a lot of kids, covering quite a few grades. This is my mother, so you can see she's going from 3rd grade to 4th grade. Teacher's salary per month was $45. It's got that same summary. The number of months taught was 8. This is 1930. And again, this is District 12, and now my mother is teaching the school. And this is 29, and she graduated in 23, so she's an experienced teacher and is doing okay. It looks like she made $85 a month, which is pretty good.
And where was the school? District 12?
Crab Orchard, Nebraska. It would be District 1. Well, not District 1. This is District 12 right here. Crab Orchard is District 1.
Okay.
Why this little tiny village is District 1. The county seat over here is something else, but that's the way it is. Now you can see the students here, and this looks like it's a mistake. I happen to know it was erased. I mean, I can guess why it's erased, because I look at the names of the people there and one's missing, and that's the kid that she expelled.
Oh, makes sense, yeah. Yep.
Which was, looking back, he was a kid that didn't want to be in school. I think he was almost 16 years old, and he threatened the other kids with a knife and stuff like that, and he just didn't want to be in school, and she expelled him.
Yeah, that'll do it.
All 3 members of the school board, plus the kids' parents, plus her father, which they didn't listen, they all came to school to ask her to change her mind. She says, it's him or me.
Oh, I see. Well, they needed teachers, I suppose.
No. And here she is again, District 12. And that is May 30. Well, I can't tell. Well, 31, 32 was last year she taught, because I was born in 33.
Oh, okay.
So these District 66, that's the school that my wife went to. There's a lot of kids there in 1917.
Oh my gosh. That's over 2 dozen.
There's about almost 30. That's a lot of kids. Let's see. District 66. Total wages for the year 600. I don't know if that was the year that they had all those kids. This is later. This is 1945. This is 1925. District 58 is another school that my mother taught, and this must be the last year she taught.
30, 31, yeah.
These Diedrichs here are cousins of mine. Number of library books, 82. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that is pretty good.
When I was going to school, there was 1.
No.
Well, anyway, they won't need this. But these are the things that are those cards. And there's a card like that for, they started in 1914, and they went till schools closed in either, say, 1945, 50, or 55. Some of them might have gone to 60. But then there's sort of a card for every year. So that kind of information is pretty good information, and that wouldn't be that hard to digitize those.
No, not at all.
But that would, so that's another good. This is, I did a little bit of looking this morning. This is something else I had in my file, which is, well, I have copies of this, but you can see at College Hill, you can read that, but there are pictures of country schools. I've seen that one. But wait a minute. Have I? This one I've seen for years ago when we lived in Cedar Rapids, Marion. You can see that one. So no, I don't know where that one's at.
Okay.
But that's some. This is, I just happened upon this, and this is a thesis written in 2000, I believe it is, in 2010, by a school superintendent getting his PhD in the small rural school district, so I followed up on it. You can see what's there. This is 2 pages. This is 1 page from his thesis, which I copied because this could still be his email or phone number. But if this was his advisor, he might be somebody I want to get a hold of yet to learn a little bit more about rural schools, Nebraska.
Yeah.
So,
Oh my goodness, what a good find.
Okay, February 1950, a news article, Sterling High School Normal Training, and it's got a list of us there, and something that we did. This is some pictures of Saunders Creek School. That was the name of this school. This guy currently takes pictures around the county and does a real nice job on. These pictures don't look very good in the way they printed out, but the school is back there.
Is this the school you went to? Oh,
No,
goodness
it's a
gracious.
school. This is a school that my wife taught.
Oh, okay, I see.
She taught 1 year out of high school, and that's the school.
Okay.
And that's a picture of it, another picture of it. So this one is, you know, it looks like there's leaves on the trees. This is the same school recently in the winter.
Okay.
This is there's a Facebook page that's got for the area, and there's one actually for Saunders Creek School.
Okay.
So this is somebody that taught the school some years earlier, and this guy was ahead of me in high school, but I think that either this one or this one was in my wife's class. And she taught these brother and sister. She taught one of their younger sisters. This is the information about Saunders Creek with a list of teachers from way back. See what they did in this particular, in 1911. They got a nice thing there.
Yeah.
So, Carolyn Kress, she's the one that had provided this other picture. She's also a local historian, so she provides good information.
Okay. You did some massive research here.
Well, I've been at it for a while. I told you that my 8th grade teacher might still be available for interview, and that's her right there.
Oh.
And this is my cousin, who is still living, and he went to country school, and he I don't know if he taught country school. He farmed for a while, but he then, and farming was not good for his health. And I think he finished up a teaching degree, and I think he may have been a school superintendent for one of the western Nebraska towns. But that's Marguerite Fritz. And this is another picture that she provided, which shows some other kids that I knew, which I don't know if that would be of any interest to you. This is my mother when she had a 4-H club.
Oh.
Boys, all boys, a boys cooking club.
Oh, okay.
This is the boys cooking club set up in the local restaurant selling cookies. So this is my mother, this is my aunt who was helping, and these are people who are sitting in the restaurant to drink coffee. This lady is a hairdresser across the street. And I think this lady here, I think, runs the newspaper across the street, and I can't recall for sure who those are. It's a little bit of a picture of the town.
Oh, then and now. Yeah?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, this is the old bank, and it looks a lot different now.
Yeah.
And this is the 4-H club also. It looks like built some kind of a thing for the park.
Oh.
This is really not very school related, but it's kind of interesting.
But personally to you, interesting.
This is a little background that, so I did do some research 5 years ago to find out the status of these records, and I don't really say here, but what I was told was that the records have to stay with the county. So, anyway, I'll let you have that stuff. I don't know if this is of any interest, but we've used up a little bit of time, and I can try to talk about whatever you want to.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about back to when you were a student. Just for the sake
Has
of
your machine been running all the time or not?
Oh yeah, it's been running.
It's been running, okay.
Well, you know, oral interviews, we learn to always keep it running. You never know when you might miss something.
Well, it's just a way to here, so.
But for the sake of the interview, for the video, I should say, if you could just state where you went to school in Nebraska, the name, the number, what years you attended country school.
All right, well, you keep track of what I say and then tell me what I left out. Well, I was born in Nebraska. My folks lived on a small farm next to near Vesta, Nebraska. It's Vesta, and I lived there till I was 4 years old, and then they moved to Sterling, which is 6 or 8 miles north of there, and they were on a farm that then it was a step up for them as far as the larger farm and so on. And Sterling is where my mother had gone to high school. It's where she went there 1 year. My dad grew up west of town a couple miles, so they knew the people there. And I don't know exactly when we made the move. I don't remember that, but it was time for me to go to school the next fall, which would have been fall of 1938. And I began in first grade. I don't know if they weren't teaching kindergarten at that time, or if my mother thought that maybe I should start in first grade. I can't tell you what the deal was. But the school was, as I showed you the picture of the county, Johnson County, and the school districts are shown there. They are not all precisely in a grid of 4 sections of land with a school in the center. Many are, but a lot of them have other little jogs in the boundary to have different locations or include different areas, and I don't know the reasons for that. Mine was District 56 up here in northwestern part of the county, and the district just to the west of that was District 39, where my father went to school, and down south, probably another 10 miles, was District 12 near Crab Orchard, and that's where my mother went to school. District 56 here was located, actually where we lived in the district was a rural district, so that's where we were expected to go to school. It would have actually been probably at least a half to 3/4 of a mile closer to go to the school in the village, which was a K-12 school. But we weren't in the district, so we didn't go to school there. Likewise, Nebraska had a Nebraska Public Power District for electricity. And this was a company called Consumers Electric Power. It served villages and towns. It didn't serve rural. That was to be taken care of by the REA, the Rural Electrification Administration. REA didn't serve our farm, but we weren't close enough to Sterling to get power, so we did without electricity for quite a few years. We did finally, they were finally able to get Consumers to give us electricity, I think in 1948 when I was a sophomore in high school, so we got electricity then. And I think they only had to put up 2 poles to get electricity from the main line up over to us, but before that they couldn't. So, going to school, I started in 1st grade, and I didn't know what I was getting into, but and I didn't know whether I would like it or not. And as I mentioned before, I had heard my folks talking about it, and they were talking about people that were on the school board, and so that sounded kind of curious to me. I know since it was a pretty good distance, I think that my folks may have driven me to school in the beginning, but I think I might have walked maybe the first half to 3/4 of a mile, and the teacher, who lived in Sterling, could then pick me up on the way. So I think that might have happened. I'm pretty sure that she dropped me off on the way home in the evening, so that I only had short ways to walk to get home. And that was true in the 2nd grade also. I don't know if I rode with the teacher. I have no memory of riding to school with the teacher, but I do have memory of riding, at least sometimes riding home with the teacher that would drop me off. And as I mentioned to you, the first day of school, I was curious to see this school board, and I couldn't see any board on that school that people could sit on.
Right.
But anyway, I had to learn how to socialize in the school there and do things the way civilized people did, and so that was part of my learning experience. And
But then you went to Sterling, correct?
that's right, yeah, and after 2 years of going to country school, my parents made some arrangement with the village school, the K-12 school, and I was able to go to school there. So for the next 3 years, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, I went to school in town, where there were probably 20 or 25 children in each classroom, maybe 30 in each classroom. But that would have been 2 grades. So they were much larger classes. And so that was another new experience. Then, and my sister, who was 3 years younger than me, started school there. And I'm sure she began in kindergarten, because that would have been, I knew they had kindergarten, and I'm sure she would have taken it. Yes, then after 3 years, whatever arrangements the folks had with the school changed. And I believe that they had been paying $12 a year tuition for me to go to the village school. When that increased to $27, that was more than they could afford. So instead of $27 for me and $27 for my sister, we went back to country school. And I had a pony by that time, so we would ride to school on a pony. And pony would be tied up there for the day. I know we rode the pony when I was in 7th and 8th grade. I don't know for sure if we did in 6th grade, because I think I can remember that we did walk some of those times. I just don't remember well enough. I know that there was another family that had some of the kids that wanted to ride a horse for 7th and 8th grade, so I know my dad and the other family's dad and maybe a couple of school board people put up a little pole barn type of thing on the corner of the school ground that's with the 3 sides and a roof with the open south side being open, but it protected the horses from the weather, and we could just let them stand there all day until it was time to go home, and then we'd ride home. And that was riding back and forth to school was, well, we couldn't drive the horse fast, for one thing. My sister's sitting behind me, and well, she might try to hang on. There was some difficulty. She'd been diagnosed with polio at age 1 year, and while she could walk, her right side was paralyzed. So while she didn't recover, and her right leg was okay, her right arm was not, and it was always. Well, if you've ever seen pictures of Bob Dole or whatever, he could hold a pencil in his hand, in his right hand, but he had to put it there. And that was just about the way she was. She had no use of that hand.
Even in the winter, you rode the pony to school?
I think so. You know, if it was really bad weather, why, in the winter, well, we had farm work going on in the winter. I mean, at that time, Dad still found stuff to do pretty much all day long on the farm. But in the winter, there wasn't as much, and if it was bad weather, I think he might have driven us. There again, it's been too long, and I don't really remember the details. But, you know, riding if you're riding a pony, one thing you do have to be able to have your dinner pail that you can hang on to.
So you brought your lunch
Oh
pail
yes, we
with
brought
you?
our lunch.
Did you bring anything else with you, or?
Not much. We didn't. I don't remember taking work home from school.
No homework?
There was work at home already, so we didn't take schoolwork home. And but lunch was probably a sandwich or two, and maybe an apple or something like maybe a piece of cake wrapped up in wax paper or something like that. But that was about it. Water for the school was in a little cooler like the one you have back there.
Oh, you had a cooler?
Just like that one,
Okay.
yeah. Very much like that one. But the water there was no well on the school ground.
Oh.
So that was a daily chore for student volunteers to walk about 2 blocks to a farm where we could get water. And you'd bring back 1 or 2 buckets of drinking water that you'd pour in there. And we each had our tin cup that was hanging on the wall, and so that's what we had to drink out of.
Was that an expectation of your teachers to go get water daily?
Oh, well, it would have been the teacher's responsibility, I think, to see that it was done. I think this would have been something that the school board and parents would have informally negotiated with the teacher that she shouldn't have to do this, except under circumstances, so that at least most of the time they expect to have that done by students. There again, I don't remember the details. I don't know if we did this often, but I do remember going to get water.
Did you have any other expectations, or were there any specific rules of the classroom or discipline techniques that you remember your teacher had?
I learned that, if you wanted to speak or do something, you would raise your hand. That was pretty standard. And I think you could hold up 1 finger or 2. I don't know, maybe 1 is if you wanted to go get a drink of water, and 2 if you wanted to go outside to the toilets out there. And so that was part of the keeping order. Now I grew up on a farm, and you're really not that close to the road, and well, especially boys, if you really need to go to the bathroom, there's no cars coming and you can step behind the barn. That was good enough. In our school, the school was next to the road on one side. These 2 outhouses were clear on the other side of the school ground. Pretty long walk.
Yeah.
It's, I might say, I don't know if it was a block, but it was a ways, but the coal shed was pretty close to the school, so, yeah. And in 1st grade, I went around behind the coal shed, and the teacher came out and scolded me. She was very unreasonable.
Do you remember her at all? Or was she young? What did she wear? Do you remember her name?
I wouldn't know. Oh, I know her name, yes. Her name was Miss Chrislean. This was Joe Chrislean. She was a local girl, so, yeah. Yeah, she scolded me. And I don't think this was her first year of teaching, so there was no nonsense. And after one or two times I gave up, you know, she's watching me. Coal shed was used also for playing games like throwing the ball over and see if you can catch it, and handy over, those kind of things. There was a swing set, 2 swings, 1 bar that you could try to hang on. There wasn't much.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to work off steam by yourself in recess.
Hello.
Oh, hi, I didn't mean to intrude.
Oh no.
I don't mean to intrude. I was in here years ago for an open house about 25 years ago. Soon after this was brought here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sure, they keep it up very well.
Mm-hmm.
It's charming. What's the back room for? What is that there? What's for?
Oh, that's just storage.
Storage room.
things. Yeah.
Okay, and then in the good old days they had outhouses and all that other stuff. Wow, it's very nice. You have a nice day.
Okay.
Come to you.
Yeah. Any other defining characteristics or features of your school that you remember?
Well, the school layout, unlike this one, it had a concrete slab in front, which was above grade, anywhere from a foot to a few inches. Don't remember, but I know that at least on one side it was a good foot drop off. And then you could step up into the school, 1 door. And that was the back of the school.
The back. Okay.
That was the back. Well, whatever you want to call the back. But where you entered was also a place where the water cooler was nearby. Your coats were hung there on nails or hooks. You'd store your dinner pails there. I say dinner pails, they could be regular dinner pails that you might buy at the store, but more than likely it was a lard can or just a paper bag. Paper bags didn't last too long, so lard cans would last forever. You know, they were convenient. They were good size and they would hold enough. And they had a lid that would pop on pretty tight, so those were those were used by a lot of kids. There was a bookcase. I said had 1 book.
Do you remember what book it was?
Yes, it was Pilgrim's Progress, and I never read it. I just couldn't bear it. No, I didn't. We did have in later years, and when I was in 7th and 8th grade, then there was what's called a traveling library. And the teacher could go to the county superintendent's office on a Saturday morning and pick up a box that was about probably 18 inches long, about a foot wide and a foot high, with a little opening lid and a latch and a handle, and that would be there might be 1 or 2 books but before it might have as many as a dozen books, with a few of them for little kids and a few more for intermediate or 7th or 8th grade. Wasn't a lot of choice, but it was better than nothing. So that was the books that we had.
Do you know if those books were those provided, or did the teacher provide them? Or?
No, they came from the county superintendent.
Okay.
So they were a rotating lending library by the county superintendent.
Okay.
And I don't know where the funds for that came, but with a lot of rural schools in the district, there could have been, say there were 70 districts. It's a lot of books.
Right.
If all the schools participated. I don't know if they did, but it could be quite a few books, and it'd be quite a lot of work for them to administer that. I remember them being there, and I remember being in the county superintendent's office. I don't remember seeing a lot of these boxes around there, so I don't know where they stored them.
Do you remember the color of your school? Was it white?
It was white.
It was white?
White, needing paint when I began, and still needed paint when I left. On the front it said District 56, West Sterling School.
Okay.
And West Sterling, I think, was confused because, confusing with another school. There was a parochial school that was 2 miles west of Sterling. We were about 1.25 miles west of Sterling, and also 1 mile south. But it had the name West Sterling. But the parochial school was on the highway. So I think some people, if they heard West Sterling, just assumed that that was the West Sterling schoolhouse, but it wasn't. It was West Sterling is where I went to school.
Okay.
2 miles west of that was another district, was District 39. I was in District 56. District 39 was 2 miles west, and that's when my father grew up. That's where he went to school.
Uh-huh.
The district numbers bear no resemblance to their location within the county, so I don't know. I assume that they were assigned as they were formed.
Mm.
Well, again, the back of the school had, well, another thing that was back there was a sandbox.
Oh, yeah.
A box probably about the size of this desk, maybe slightly smaller, but probably also about this high, and with a border probably 3 to 4 inches high and hold sand. And I remember playing in that. If you poured water on the sand, it would hold together. You could shape things out of it better.
Mm.
And I think because of that, that sand table may have been lined with a metal or something like that.
Mm.
Right in front of the middle entrance door, which was what I call the back of the school, and probably 10 to 12 feet in front of that was the stove, the heating stove, and I think in the later years it would have been an oil heater. Maybe it was when I was in first grade, but I don't remember. I'm pretty sure. Well, I mentioned this coal shed that was near the school. So they did use coal and cobs for heat at some time, but I do remember that there was coal in that. So now that I think about it, it may have been a solid fuel fired stove that we used for heating.
Oh, wow.
That would have been the teacher's responsibility to start the fire and keep things hot. And sometimes kids, if it was convenient on that kind of stove, you could put something from your lunch there to warm it up, but it wasn't very convenient. Well, the stove that you have back here, it does at least have a flat top, so you could have heated that.
Mm-hmm.
You know. It might well have been a wood. Coal was something you had to buy. Mm-hmm. Cobs is something everybody had on the farm. So cobs and wood would be a more likely fuel than coal, but all of them have their particular advantages.
Do you remember chalkboards, desks?
Yes, at the front of the school, the far end where it was the chalkboard, and the chalkboard went from wall to wall. Yeah, so it was nice chalkboards. When the school was retired, those boards were taken out, and I asked my dad to get one, and so I was able to see them closer. They were solid sheets of slate, and slate was, I would say, 3/8 of an inch thick, at least a quarter, between 1/4 and 3/8. They were very heavy. and fragile. They are safe when they're on the ball, but trying to handle them, otherwise they could break easily. I had some idea of doing something with it and never did, so it was just a liability. Also, like here, there's a picture of George Washington on the wall. I think there was a flag. We certainly had the Palmer cards, illustrations of penmanship, and there were several lamp holders similar to these. These have been electrified. Those would have been kerosene lamps. They were never used. It would have been, it didn't get dark enough that you had to have lamps on in the school, and it just wasn't a good idea.
Did you have curtains on windows, or?
I don't remember.
No?
No, as a student, it wouldn't have occurred to me to think, well, we should have curtains or not. I would probably say, well, let's not have curtains. I'd like to be able to see what's out there.
Right. Do you remember what a typical student wore to school?
I think boys were either wearing bib overalls, or they might have been wearing jeans, with a belt. And I'm sure I wore both at different times, at different times of the year. I think in winter we would have dressed warmly enough that we probably would have had a flannel shirt or something so that we wouldn't. I don't remember wearing a sweater in school.
Your teacher kept it nice and toasty.
Well, this is one of the other things that what I think is what I think, and I have really no solid memory to back it up. So I wouldn't take that as an authoritative answer.
Let's see here. Do you remember what your lessons were like? What lessons did you take? Do you remember the supplies you used?
Well, of course I took reading, phonics, learning the alphabet, flashcards, and word endings and things like that to try to identify. And it seemed like it was a rote process of memorization, which was hard. I didn't like it, and trying to use phonics to sound out words with every letter of the word didn't really work all the time. So it was a bit of a struggle, at least at first, and maybe it's because I was going right into first grade and you have to keep up. I don't remember if there was another first grader with me or not. There might have been, but I should be able to find out by looking at those records.
Do you know how many students there were total?
I'll guess 10.
10? Okay.
And we can check that out. I do remember that, of course, like I'm sure most people have told you in a rural school, all the students sit there in the same room and listen to the other, or they can listen to all of the other classes recite, even though the teacher in the front is probably speaking in a lower voice and so on. They're small rooms and it's pretty easy to hear what's going on. So you've probably heard lessons for the fourth grade for 3 years before you get there. And you'll hear them again for several years after you leave. We had, so there was reading. The first reading book was not Dick and Jane. They didn't have Dick and Jane yet, or I don't know when Dick and Jane series came out, but If they were out before 1938, our school board hadn't felt that it was necessary to buy any new books when the other books had not worn out yet.
Okay.
They were perfectly good.
Uh-huh.
And so the ones that I learned on I guess it was the name of the company, it was Bolenius Reader.
Bolenius.
And the characters were Tom and Betty.
Oh, okay.
So I had to read about Tom and Betty instead of Dick and Jane.
Okay.
And so there's that. Of course, we had arithmetic, we had spelling. You need to learn how to spell, you need to learn how to write, you have to practice the penmanship and do the circles and ovals and so on. There was some usage of ink, but ink with a little steel pen was not practical, so we might have learned how to do it and then quit. I don't think any teacher wants to put up with that.
Right.
The desks themselves were not nice and smooth like this one. They had carvings in them from students that had been there 5, 10, 30 years before.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't that was a problem. We had some music. We had a Victrola and a few records, not too many. The only musical item that I can remember was something called the Clock Store.
Oh, what is that?
This was a recording of the Clock Store. You can imagine yourself in a clock store, and you can hear somebody winding the clock.
Oh.
And then comes an on the hour, and all of these clocks go off, from the grandfather's clock, boom, boom, to the others.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, it was kind of a fun. I've looked for that record to see if there's, and I've never found anything, but it'd be kind of fun to find that one.
Did you have a piano in your school?
There was a piano there. The teacher may or may not know how to play the piano, but she could lead us in singing. We had the little, I believe that the songbooks were the little golden book of songs or something. They were thin books about so big.
Uh-huh.
I think you might still be able to get them. I would like to get a copy just to see. I don't know for sure, but my perception is that some of the songs that were in there that we enjoyed are probably not politically correct today. And we wouldn't have had a clue about what they're, and I doubt if our teachers would have had a clue either.
Mm-hmm.
I know that depending on the teacher, many schools would have an evening where the district was invited to come in and visit the school, and there would be a school play presented, some kind of performances.
Mm-hmm.
And they had one when I was in first grade. And so in the front of the room, had a wire run across it, probably 6 foot in front of the blackboards.
Mm-hmm.
A wire was running across the room so that they could hang sheets or something to have a space that, which would be the wings of the theater, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And you could stand back behind there until it was time that you wanted to go out and recite a poem or go out and play a little instrument or something like that. I don't remember too much about what the other kids did, but this was a time when a new song had come out called A Tisket, a Tasket, My Little Yellow Basket.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote a letter to my mommy and put it in my basket, and then I'm walking across and I lost it. The little girlie picked it up and put it in her pocket, and and if she doesn't give it back, I think I'll cry.
Oh.
My job was to take this little basket that they give me, and on cue I'm supposed to walk across stage while either there's a record playing, or I kind of think that one of the 8th grade girls who could play the accordion might have been playing it. So my job was to, act this out. I was absolutely terrified. I don't know how far I got. I probably ended up bawling and running off the stage. But I do know that it was very stressful for me at that time. And I did, and I still remember that, it was not something I wanted to do. But that's kind of first grade. There were, I don't remember a lot about the academic subjects. I guess I got them all right. Spelling words, you have to practice writing them, and then they're recited, you have to write them down. I do know that in first grade there was a fourth grader, a big boy in 4th grade, Wayne. Wayne had a crew cut. That's different. Wayne knew lots of stuff. So if I wanted to know anything, Wayne would gladly tell me. And I would go home and say, Wayne said, So there was some people, the kids looked up to, but that's just another thing. The second year I had another teacher, and so I was a little more experienced, and then later on I went back to town school, which was different. Going back to country school, it was country school, but now I was one of the older kids. I was a 6th grader when I went back, and there were not very many kids in school at that time. There might have been 6 of us total, probably not much more than that.
Were there any major changes when you went back to country school?
Probably only in the number of the student body. I can't remember. And the teacher was not as good at organizing a social event or something like that. My first grade teacher was, she was experienced and she was able to do things. She's one that, the other thing we did, and I think this was first grade, it might have been 2nd grade, was we always had to make a gift for our mothers for Christmas. This was something that I think most rural school teachers did. And so that was something that might start beginning in November, and you had to finish it, of course, in time. And teachers might start that early on to give kids something to do. And it's an extracurricular activity. And let's see, I didn't... I am not sure if this was first grade or 2nd grade, but this was the project that was made for my mother. And I'm sure I had to have help with it, but this is a recipe book. And it's, you can see that the hardcover is a piece of cardboard. It may have been the back of a tablet or something like that. On the inside are pages that are sewn in to a cloth binder, and there's a binder of cloth on here. I can't tell what kind of paper was on the front because it's pretty much all gone by now. But it was blank pages so that Mother could write her recipes in there. And I had totally forgotten until I opened this, but on the inside is a note to my mother that says, "To Mother, here is a place for a recipe, just a little book, just a tiny little book. You can always find it, and now never have to look."
Oh.
And she has started with the first one, which is the most important one, chocolate cake. And they go on from there. So she's got a lot of recipes in there, and that was the thing that we did. There was that same, along that same line, there was I have something else that I can show you that is related to that, and I'll do that because I don't want to bring it back again. We had in our home growing up a doorstop, which is this. And it's heavy enough. It's about 5 pounds. That's a doorstop. It's pretty well worn, but there were some colored paper, I think, that was on it, and then it was covered with shellac or some kind of clear colored paint. I never thought much about it. It was just a doorstop.
Right.
And before my mother died, I asked her one time, I said, "Where'd that rock come from? You know, the doorstop." "Oh," she said, "well, she said, "that came when I was teaching school. Every kid made one as a gift for their mother for their Christmas present."
A doorstep.
A doorstop.
Oh, that's clever.
And, you know, the economic level of the students varies from those who are reasonably well off to some that really don't have any extra money and they can't afford to spend 25 cents on materials to make a Christmas present that Mother may not even want anyway. But everybody can find a rock.
Right.
And, or if they can't, somebody can help them find one. So finding a project that they're capable of doing, that they can afford, is part of the trick.
Right.
And that is, that's what this one was. That's the other. I talked to a cousin of mine recently and asked her about those things. She said, "Well, of course, everybody made the letter holder that was made out of paper plates. You know, one paper plate and then a half of one below it, and then you could hang it on the wall and put envelopes on it." But yeah, there was. That reminds me of something I hadn't. If you don't mind wandering all around here.
No, go ahead.
When my mother taught school, she had a student, a little girl, who wore the same dress to school every day. She's pretty sure that's the only dress that she had. She told her, she said, "You know," after she thought about it, she said, I don't know if this is spelling or arithmetic, she says, "If you get a perfect paper, you get a gold star by your name on this sheet. When you fill it up, you get a prize." So she worked at that, and she got enough gold stars to where it was time to get a prize. My mother gave her 2 yards of fabric. And the next Monday morning, she came back to school with a new dress.
Oh.
So that was just another thing that teachers kind of, I don't know if they'd be allowed to do that today, but that was, they kind of did what they thought fit the situation. So.
Yeah, I mean, teachers, they always came across certain circumstances, right? But that's a unique case. We haven't heard anything like that before, so. Let's see here. Do you remember when you knew it was time for lunch? Like, when did the day start? When was lunchtime? When did it end?
I think that, there again, I don't remember what time the school started. You would think it would start at 8 o'clock, but I wonder if it might have been closer to 9 because kids had chores to do and it's a little harder to get to school. We didn't have any school buses, and the town school didn't have school bus system either. So it would have taken more time. I don't really remember what the time was. I'm pretty sure that we got out at 4. There would have been a recess halfway in the forenoon, and then again in the afternoon, and an hour lunch, where you can run around and let off steam, do things.
Let's see. This is sort of an odd question, but did you have nap time at all?
No,
No.
I don't remember having nap time. I suppose that, well, I think it would be difficult to have nap time. I mean, nap time would be for, let's say, a kindergartner or a first grader who might need to rest a little bit. But then they'd also need to be in a quiet space where they could rest. And with other people reciting and walking around, it just wouldn't have been very easy to do.
We have some cases where people did have nap time. They would bring their blankets or mats from home to have nap time.
Well, I think I wouldn't be surprised if they did it. This would probably be something that would be an informal arrangement between teacher and parents. So that they know what they're going to do. And the kids would be told, "Now you behave and do what you're supposed to do." That always helps.
Do you remember your end of day? What did you do before you left school? How did you get home?
When school was dismissed, you immediately got ready to go home. You were expected to be home. There was work to do, and you needed to get home and do it. Now, in first and second grade, maybe not, but certainly by fourth, fifth, and so on, there would be work to do. So we did that. I think, what other question? I mean, I can think of different things, but they're off the, they're not in any good sequence.
Oh, no. You know what? You just go ahead and talk. Because we're going to edit the video, so...
Okay.
Yeah.
And I do need to watch my time so that
absolutely.
I can box things up and get to my other place. Now, the note that I probably have on the car that you're going to give to Nathan, do you need to have that today or is that on some other schedule?
Whenever you could give it to me today or send it to Nathan.
Okay.
Either or, whenever.
Okay.
As long as it gets to us. So.
Okay. Well, you watch the time for me so that about 10 till 4 that we'll start winding things up for the day and then we can continue on.
Did you ever have 8th grade exams?
Oh, yes.
Yes, do you remember them, what they were like?
I remember them. They were country schools. I think the theory was that the kids in country schools had varied experiences and varied talented teachers. they would have exams to see if you're ready for high school, if you want to go to high school. If you don't want to go to high school, well, then no problem, you didn't have to take 8th grade exams. But this was a time when, probably from the 20s, for a long time, there was a decision whether kids wanted to go to high school or not. Many didn't feel that they needed to. Now, by the time I got there, I think by the time we got to the 30s and 40s, kids were more likely to go to high school unless they really didn't want to. I only know of a few kids my age that elected not to go to high school, or maybe 1 year said, well, it's not for me. But 8th grade exams, yes, you were tested on every subject, and the exams were administered at the county seat, so this was a day off, and you would go there. It may have been on a Saturday, but you would, so kids from all over the county would be there to take the 8th grade exams, and you would get the, it's an all-day thing, and you've got tests on reading and arithmetic and spelling, literature, mention literature. This book is legends, poems, and stories. It's a selection of short things like the poem Trees, or The Village Blacksmith, to longer poems like Evangeline, The Man Without a Country. It's just a selection of, so you're exposed to something, and there would be questions. You expect to see a few questions on the 8th grade exams about the contents of that book. I think if you were a good student, you didn't worry too much about taking the exam. You just felt confident, at least I did. And I got 90% or better on all of my grades except for one. I got 80% on penmanship, and my penmanship hasn't really improved much since then. I think that you could take one of those exams in 7th grade, so that maybe you wouldn't have quite as much. I think that was one of the rules. There was also, in that regard, there were 8th grade exam review books. You may have heard of Harold Warp, who was a businessman in Nebraska. He created a place called Pioneer Village in Nebraska, which is still there. It's a big tourist attraction. He had a brother who was a county superintendent, and I think it's his brother that published the first 8th grade exams books in probably 1920 or something like that. And they were used so that people could get an idea of what's going to be on the exam, how to take the exam. And those books were published, and I think they might have even been published for other states.
Do you remember preparing? How did you feel about taking the 8th grade exam?
Well, you know, it's not something you want to just brush it off, but you tried to think about what can they ask about? Well, I don't remember doing any serious review, but I probably did some. I'm sure my mother might have been on top, you know, to ask me questions ahead of time, because she'd had students that took 8th grade exams.
Right.
I know that her younger sister, who was 12 years younger than her, she did give her some drills and so on to prepare her for taking the 8th grade exams. As a result, my grandfather, who was grateful for this, gave her a pig. He said, you got to pay me $1 for it so that the other kids don't say that I was giving stuff away. But he did that because she had helped Aunt Mildred get through her 8th grade exams without difficulty. So it was something that was noteworthy. So they were something to take seriously, but I think many of us felt, well, I should be able to do that, because looking at the people who had gone before and had been able to do it, we were able to do that okay.
So
I could, those are kind of, I think I've covered what I can kind of remember about my own. Maybe another time I could tell you about when I taught school and when my mother taught school, some of those experiences, but is there anything else about school today?
No, is there anything else that you would like to add, or like, do you have any just little memories here and there, or?
Oh, well, you know, I remember coming home from school on a fall day, in early fall, there'd be wild plums, and you could waste time by picking a bunch of those and eating, putting them in your dinner pail and eating plums all the way home.
Did you go to rural school during World War II?
Oh, yes.
What was that like? Did that impact your school?
Well, it was, I at least was very aware of it. I'd read the paper, and there were things for kids to read. There was a My Weekly Reader at that time, and at least there was when we went to town school. And I remember one day, you know, we were about 40 miles from Lincoln, and we would get there maybe once a year, but Lincoln had an air base for training. And I remember one day looking out the window, and I could see a P-38, low level, approaching from the west. And I said, look at that. I don't know if this was a student pilot, but he was giving us a thrill, because he came in low and he cleared the schoolhouse by probably 20 feet. Just scared us to death. But that was exciting.
But do you remember, was anything more patriotic in school? For instance, did you have to use the Sears catalog as toilet paper? Rationing, things like that?
I don't remember the Sears catalog at school. I think they might have opted for regular toilet tissue, but there might have been something there for backup. I remember Kate Smith, God Bless America. That was came along about that time.
You said the pledge? The pledge?
Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes.
I think we had that. I think that was what were called opening exercises. You know, make sure that what was the attendance, who's here today and who isn't, and is all the lunches put away, and is everybody in order, and you know, we're getting ready to start, so it would be a Pledge of Allegiance. A few schools might have had a prayer at the same time, but most not.
Did your school?
I don't think it did. Certainly not the town school and my country school that I went to, but the one that I went to for about 3 months, I believe it did.
Okay.
And I think this was just a teacher's option.
Okay.
And it wouldn't be the kind of thing that you would do today, because they're a little more conscious of it.
Were there pictures of religious figures or symbols?
No,
No,
there wouldn't have been that. This was, that's not something you would do. If it was a parochial school, or say a Catholic school or the Lutheran school, it was, then there might have been some, but not otherwise.
Okay, so just for an end note here, what are some important takeaways you want people to remember about your rural school experience? Do you have any lessons that you learned? What do you think about that education system to today's education system? Do you have like a final word at all, or?
Well, they're both good, but those of us that went to country school kind of like to remember it as a positive experience, at least most of us do, and the fact that you were able to hear the recitation of all the classes, and the fact that you might help each other out. This is something that teachers, an upperclassman who was clearly learned it all by the time they got to 7th grade and is bored going to 8th grade, might be welcome the chance to help a 2nd grader with their spelling or reading or something like that. And so there was, it was sort of a combined experience that way.
And did you enjoy your country school years?
Oh, I think so. I think I could have enjoyed them. I think the town school offered more opportunities, but they were just different. They weren't, I wouldn't say the one was clearly better than the others. They were just different.
Alrighty. Well, anything else, or?
I'll probably think of something, but
I think we'll meet again.
well, I hope so, because there are a few other things that I could try to remember to tell you about.
And you'll have more time to prepare this time too. I know this was sporadic, so. But hopefully next time we can talk about also your teaching experiences too. So,
Okay.
yeah.